Hello, my name is Parker Turley, and this is a Law of Media podcast on the First Amendment and legal issues related to the First Amendment. And thank you for listening in today. The topic I'm going to talk about is the City of Lakewood, the Plain Dealer Pub Company. So this is a very interesting case that caught my eye. So basically, to introduce the topic, I'm going to talk about how the City of Lakewood put an ordinance in that people had to request approval from the mayor to put news racks out on the sidewalk or out on the public to sell them, and they had to meet the standards of what the mayor wanted, and basically this allowed for the mayor to discriminate against a certain news outlet company or newspaper. If he didn't like what they saw, he could discriminate against the people who wanted to get a permit based on the content of what they were putting out there and the viewpoints they had in their publications. Now, this is very interesting because talking through this topic, newspaper publishers felt that it was discriminating against their right under the First Amendment for the freedom to express their speech, because this is somebody allowing them and telling them whether they can put a news rack out there or not. And under the First Amendment, you have to give them the freedom to express their speech and their publication and what they wrote in the paper to the public for them to see. And so this case went to court, and the court held that the licensing, putting an ordinance on the licensing was invalid because it gave the mayor a big amount of power that under the First Amendment wouldn't be dealt with. So, in turn, talking about this, it promoted self-censorship in a sense by publishers and other speakers who were wanting to get a news rack out there. They would have to secure the approval of the mayor's office in order to get their licensing request approved. So it did promote self-censorship in the case that you had to suck up to the mayor to get your publication put out there. And under the First Amendment, you have the right to speak what you want to speak, and without any power going against you. And basically, this was just very bad under the First Amendment, and you had to secure approval of the license request is my issue with this. You shouldn't have to have approval to put your news rack out there, because that's your private property, what you're writing, and that's your property, your stories. Whether it's an opinion story or whether it's a story with facts based on sports, he could discriminate against any publication based on it. So the decision was 4-3 for the Plain Dealer Publishing Company, and obviously the court added that while the cities should be required the periodic licensing of news racks on public property, procedures had to be reasonable restrictions. They were not allowed to use language that was open-ended and as to give city officials unlimited discretion over who they can allow to get permits approved and who they can allow not to. So they kind of struck it down a little bit. But at the end of the day, to conclude this case, the City of Lakewood was basically not protected by the First Amendment for what they were doing, because it was showing censorship towards a news outlet, whether it was something he supported or not. Because if he supported it, he was going to give them the opportunity to put their news racks out there. So under the First Amendment, they should have the right to speak what is on their mind in their stories, because that is their public-private property that they are giving to others to read. And it has to be protected by the First Amendment for them to speak what's on their mind and for them to distribute their papers to the public. And I think by taking this to court, they dealt with it a little bit, but not in full. Obviously, you will see more cases in the future that deal with this specific battle that the newspapers were trying to fight, because they deserve free speech just like the people who are choosing to approve the permits. So to conclude this case, permit approvals were against the First Amendment because you're holding back what a person wants to say, and you have to allow them to speak based on what the First Amendment stands for. Thank you for listening into my podcast on the Plainwood versus Plain Dealer Publishing Company versus City of Lakewood. Thank you for listening in. This is Parker Turley on the Law of Media podcast. Thank you.